me a little bit about being non-binary or agender while growing up. I like to think I'm an empathetic person, but I'm at a loss as to what it would actually feel like to not have a gender or feel like a mix of both male and female. Thanks in advance. A fan.
So people ask me a lot about what it was like to grow up being non-binary. Even though I didn't really figure out I was non-binary until much, much later in my life, looking back, there were a lot of things that really made it quite obvious that something was going on with me. And I think the first time I really remember thinking about gender at all was probably middle school. And I would come home every single day. Like, I came home 5 days in a row crying because the boys and the girls at school were calling me a boy. That's it. It wasn't even like, they weren't even saying like you're ugly and you look like a boy, or they weren't even pointing out things that made me look like a boy. They just knew that that was upsetting to someone who was a girl in middle school, and that was the way to hurt them. And so I was so upset, and I would come home, and finally one day, after multiple days of me coming home crying, my mom sat me down and said, "Okay, so you're upset because," and I said, "because they're calling me a boy." And she said, "Do you find boys attractive?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I think boys are attractive." And she goes, "Okay, so why are you offended that they're calling you one?" And my brain totally exploded. Just my little brain that was, it's like the Grinch's heart growing 5 sizes that day or whatever. Like, I feel like my brain just exploded. And I remember from that moment on realizing, it was just some simple, like stuff that my mom was telling me to make me not feel as upset about the kids teasing me at school. But really it turned into this thing where I was like, oh, I can find myself attractive, and I am in charge of who I am, and I am in charge of how I see myself. And just because someone else says something about me doesn't mean it's true, or just because someone else says something about me negatively doesn't even mean that it's a negative thing to be called. It's just has negative connotations in that setting. And so that definitely helped me a lot. I was still very much stuck in wanting to be a girl, a proper girl. I never really felt like one, but I assumed that's how everyone felt. That everyone felt like they were wearing gender costumes. Like, I popped out of the womb, they picked girl for me, and that's the costume that I'm wearing, and it shouldn't be that hard. Everybody else is all the other girls are wearing the girl costume just fine, and if I do it just fine, and check all the boxes, and then there's no reason for anyone to ever be anything but super nice and attracted to me. And, well, obviously that's not the case. And so I was still trying to check all the boxes and do everything right, and felt like it was all a big costume. And I remember, another time, something that really sticks out to me is when I was obsessed with David Bowie and other, androgynous performers and androgynous actors. And of course, androgyny is not indicative of being non-binary. You could just be gender non-conforming. It's just, but still be cis. So, that's not necessarily a big red flag that someone might be non-binary because they want to be androgynous. But I remember there was one day I went to my mom and I said, I want to look androgynous. I want to look androgynous. And so we went to her closet and she gave me one of her old, 90s grunge shirts, flannel shirts, and I took a pair of my torn up jeans and took some old work boots that I had, and my mom pinned my hair up so it was flat against my head because I still had long hair at the time, and even put on some makeup to make my eyebrows look thicker. And she was really excited to help me. And I remember looking in the mirror and not feeling like it was working. I remember going, I look androgynous, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it, so I'm not androgynous. I just look like a girl in jeans with short hair. I'm not androgynous. I can't possibly be androgynous because I'm this. At the time, I didn't think I was anything other than a girl. So when I looked at myself, all I saw was a girl, and all I saw was femininity, and I couldn't see the androgyny because I didn't understand that I was allowed to see myself as something other than a girl. I was allowed to see myself as a girl who liked to be androgynous, a girl who liked to look like a boy. But in the end, when I ended up looking that way and trying to be that way and trying to be an androgynous or masculine woman, it felt fake. It felt wrong. It didn't feel right. And I remember being so young and not understanding, like, but this is it. This is what I wanted. I look the way I want to look, but I'm just a girl. I'm just, and it just, something was wrong. Something was, I didn't understand it. Like, I love looking androgynous, but I don't feel it, and I want to feel it. Do other people want to feel androgynous? Do other people want to have that emanate from them? Or is it just clothing? Is this how everybody is? I don't, and so it was very frustrating. And so I put that away for a long time because I would feel good dressing androgynously and looking androgynous, but I didn't feel it. And it made me uncomfortable looking the way that I wanted to look, but not feeling the way I wanted to look, or feeling the way I wanted to feel on the inside. And because I could not get away from seeing myself as anything other than a girl, even though I knew it was just the girl costume, I felt like it had been put on with super glue, that I couldn't pull it off, even though I knew it was a costume and I could feel it, and it was itchy and uncomfortable and stuffy and was making me unhappy. It was stuck, and there was nothing I could do. No amount of clothing or anything could change that I was a girl. And, you know, at the time, I didn't have the words to understand that, like, oh, well, maybe this means I don't just want to look androgynous, but maybe I am androgynous in gender. And that just wasn't something that I had even heard of or thought of, even though I had a trans friend in elementary school, I remember, and they were quite open about it, and their parents were really supportive, but it was nothing I'd ever really thought about, and nothing I'd really, spent a lot of time thinking about as when it pertained to me. And at the time, of course, I did not know anything about non-binary or agender feelings, and so, I knew other people were that way, but I was just a girl who was, like, uncomfortable being a girl. But that's it, I was a girl. And and so that went on for a really long time, and honestly, until I started meeting and spending a lot of time with and loving other non-binary trans people, as well as trans femme and trans masc people, and androgynous or gender non-conforming cis people, and really realizing that that's who I was, and being in a supportive group and being around supportive people really helped me understand that I could peel off that costume, I could be who I wanted to be, and it didn't matter how other people perceived me. It didn't matter if I looked femme or if I looked masc or if I was androgynous, because I am who I am regardless. And yeah, so growing up, it was just a lot of feeling uncomfortable. I didn't have a whole lot of dysphoria when it came to, I've never had genital dysphoria, and I've always had really small, chest, a fairly flat chest, so it's just one of those things where I felt good, I liked my body, I felt happy in my body, I just didn't feel happy with the costume that was sewn onto me at a young age. And that was also another hard thing to deal with, because a lot of folks, when I did start learning about people, non-binary people, and hormone treatment and transitioning and this and that, I got really nervous because I didn't have bottom dysphoria, and I didn't necessarily just want to look masc or femme all the time or androgynous all the time. I still just wanted to be who I was, and that was sometimes it was just sometimes whatever I wanted it to be. It wasn't going to be one thing all the time, and I wasn't going to feel the same way all the time, and that's perfectly fine. And really none of that started happening until I started finding my queer community online, and then in person, and then also working in the adult industry and meeting other amazing queer people who are just so comfortable and open with their bodies and with their, with their love and with their happiness. And just surrounding yourself with supportive people is really the best thing you can do if you're struggling with gender identity or sexuality. Surrounding yourself with people who understand what that struggle is like is 100% worth it. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't, you're likely to just get pushed back into the closet because they don't understand and they won't know, and they don't know how to encourage you. And some well-meaning cis folks and friends will, and you can tell them how to help and support you, and they will try. But feeling the community of queer people and other people who have experienced similar things, or maybe even the same thing that you went through, it really just changes your perspective, and you learn so much, and you really do just blossom. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was like growing up non-binary for me. I just felt like I was wearing a costume all the time.
Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the end. We had some technical difficulties here, and the original end of this clip is not watchable. So I just want to wrap up by saying that if you're watching this because you're questioning or you just found out that you're non-binary, I'm really proud of you, and you're going to be just fine. I really encourage you to be active in the online queer community and meet up with people near you for friendly, fun meetups. I don't know. I'm really fucking awkward. Either way, just, you're going to be okay. And it's worth it. It's worth coming out. It's worth being yourself. It's worth figuring out who you are. And it's totally possible too. You will be fine. You will make it. And it seems like there's no light at the end of the tunnel sometimes, but I promise that there is. Thanks so much for listening, and I really do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. Don't forget to keep an eye on my Safe for Work Instagram for updates. That's at sacred_slag. And keep an eye on this channel for semi-frequent updates. I like to put all sorts of fun stuff here. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and take a look at the links in my bio for ways to donate and commission audio projects from me.